Hello and welcome to my July highlights video where we take a look back on the month and see what's been selling well and what's been selling not so well and what to look forward to in the months ahead. So obviously 8.2 came out and there's been absolutely loads of stuff going on. Everything's changed with the Sinister gear no longer being a thing anymore, the Notorious gear not being as good as it could. Enchants started off slowly and then completely went through the roof as the raids got released and everyone got new gear, and so obviously needed to enchant it. And with exciting things like the world race going on, I think a lot of people have regained their interest and have started playing again because there definitely seems to be a lot more activity in the game. Currently I am working my way towards flying. It's taken me quite a while because obviously I've been focusing on gold making. Now I've done all the Najatar reputation, I've got that to revered. I'm just working on the Mechagon reputation now. I've not got too long to go. I reckon another load of dailies and I'll be there. But the main thing for me was to get that Najatar rep so that I could get my enchants up to rank 3. So as always, I create a spreadsheet of the month and have a look through my sales. So let's have a look at that. So here's my spreadsheet. Now I'm going to start with tailoring, and I really haven't done a great deal here. I've still got all my old world shirts and things that tick through quite nicely. I was able to do a nice little reset on Deep Sea Satin when it was one of the hand-ins, and I was actually able to sell it for an average of 45 gold there, which was really nice. Sold a flying carpet, a few Hexweed bags, 5 of those, a couple of Hydral Expedition bags. Now we do have some Notorious sales, a belt, 3 braces, a cloak and a couple of mittens. Nothing near like the Sinister gear used to sell, but it does sell, so it's worth having at least some on. I haven't done anything with the leatherworking side of things yet. I wanted to get the tailoring side done first and then pass on all my marks of honour to my leatherworker. So carrying on, we have more robes, shirts, Shadowweed mask, a couple of those. Actually still sold a couple of Sinister pants and cloak, which is probably at the tail end as people transitioned over. Again, I was able to make good use of a turn in there and sell some tie spray linen at a good price of 7 gold 60, and then tuxedo bits and pieces. And so my grand total, not expecting this to be particularly high, especially once you take out the Sinister gear, but 78,000 gold is okay for a background profession. And one of the things I consciously did was not do as much tailoring because my main focus was enchanting. As soon as I saw the sales increasing on enchanting, all my spare time was spent focusing on that, so I didn't restock nearly as much as I would have done normally with tailoring. So obviously we will have some expenses. I bought some various cloth to keep things going. Deep Sea Satin a fair amount there at 26,000, but obviously a good average there at 33. I embroidered Deep Sea Satin as the price was going down. I picked up a fair amount of that, average price of 16 gold 97. A little bit of gilded sea weave in case I need that in the future. Some bloodstained bone in there that shouldn't be there, but it's only 400 gold, so I don't think that's going to make a big difference. So my actual expenditure on tailoring is 51,000. These embroidered Deep Sea Satin and Deep Sea Satin are probably unnecessary in terms of what they've converted into profit, but that's just given me some stock to make use of in the future. So my actual grand total for sales on tailoring is only 27,000. It's a profit, which is good. But it's a long way off what it would normally be, and the main reason for that is the Sinister gear no longer selling and the Notorious gear not filling in the gap. Sadly, it seems benthic gear is more useful to alts. I've certainly been using it myself to gear up my alts. So let's move on to leatherworking, and the same story for leatherworking as has been for tailoring is that I've really not focused on this profession at all, so I've not restocked very often. I have had a few sales. It's interesting to have quite a few sales of coarse leather, a few bits and pieces here and there, so it's worth having at least one of each of those on them. I've not done this with tie spray gear. Maybe I should for all those fresh 111s that come out of Legion, so maybe I'll give that a go. And the same with shimmer scale gear here. Obviously the diving helmet being a turn-in, got 10 of those. Drums of Fury will tick through quite nicely normally, and then I did actually sell a few Sinister gear here, probably more at the beginning of the month. There's no Notorious gear at this point because I haven't actually set up a group for it yet. It's not been that important to me really to get started on that because I don't think the return would be worth it, although it'll be something I will add into my leatherworking profession. So in terms of sales, we've got 43,000 there. In terms of expenditure, I barely spent anything. all my tie spray purchases and all my leather purchases are going into my enchanting section, which is why they're not seen here. But I did buy a little bit of dredged leather, a little bit of hardened tempest hide, just because it was so cheap. So my actual profit for leatherworking is a quite nice 43,000, just under there. So I'm going to carry on with my other professions, and I'll do enchanting last. So alchemy is another big one that has yet to come to fruition yet. If you've been following my series on Awakening, I've got him starting, I've got him skilled up to 175 now, and what I did do is spend a lot of gold in just getting that leveled up. But what you do see here is some very respectable sales from my other alchemist, El Morte, who's doing all the transmute master things. So here we've got 21,000 in sales for the living steel, which he's converted from the mass load of ghost iron ore he got last month. So that's a very nice profit. We did manage to sell some Winter's Kiss as a turn-in, and then a couple of odd potions here and there. Nothing as a proper group yet. This is mainly sort of like miscellaneous bits and pieces. River's Heart's done quite well though, as well as Primordial Ruby. So even though we have sales of 41,500 here, if you followed my alchemy video on Awakening, you would have seen I spent a lot of gold on the other side, and here it is. We actually spent in total 127,000 gold, not just on the anchorweed, which is 37,000 there, Motes of Harmony, which went towards more living steel in the future, so that's a future investment. So that 20 odd thousand there is gone straight back into investing into more materials. Managed to get a reasonable price there for the Mote of Harmony, 17 gold, which with the Spirit of Harmony being 186 gold, that's very respectable there. So me stocking up on things there will mean that I've got more Spirits of Harmony for use in the future. Got plenty there, in fact 169. And then all the other bits and pieces that I bought with Awakening, the Winter's Kiss, the Zinathid. So there's quite a lot of things here. So obviously there's a big lot of expenditure here. I was expecting this, so a loss of 85,000 there for alchemy. So that's pretty much wiped out the other professions combined. But the good side is Enchanting has made up for all of this, which we'll see in the future. So cooking is another profession that I really haven't touched on this month. I've had a few sales of my remaining stock of Bountiful Captain's Feast, but I haven't set up my group with the new cooking yet, so I haven't really got a grips of the new 8.2 recipes and things. I'll be looking into this next month once I've got my reputation and got flying. So we've had good sales there, mainly from that Bountiful Captain's Feast. So 38,000 there, and I don't believe I spent much at all on cooking. No, literally just 1,700 on that, so that's a pretty good profit of 36, nearly 37,000 gold, just for the cooking, getting rid of my old stock. So, miscellaneous. A few bits and pieces I was able to sell, a few odd potions, Goblin Glider Kit, the odd random green there. Silver Moon Robes seem to have done quite well. So only 9,500 in sales on miscellaneous. Now, however, I did buy a lot of contracts just for my reputation gains for both Awakening and Samadan. So all my miscellaneous expenditure is going into that, plus of other bits and pieces that I used during my adventures. So another loss here of miscellaneous of minus 26,000, nearly 27,000 there. So it's been very much up and down. None of these figures are particularly huge. They're all under 100,000 either way, with the alchemy being the exception of the one being particularly large. Everything else has been a small profit, if nothing else. So let's move on to enchanting. This has by far been my biggest seller, and as soon as I saw the sales taking off on this, I knew that I had to double down on this profession and just keep, if the demand was high, I will just keep on making as much as I possibly can. So my main focus throughout the whole month was enchanting. Now obviously with the Bracer Super Shuffle, that's meant I've had to buy an awful lot of tie spray linen, coarse leather and shimmer scale when I can get it at a decent price. Prices have really started to rise as the people like myself have been buying up all the stock, because you need so much of it and it does take quite a lot of time. So looking at the kind of sales we've had here, we've had a couple of really nice sales of old enchants, 6,000 each, meaning 12,000 and 13,000 for 2 each, which is very nice for a Binding of Agility and Binding of Strength. Wouldn't have expected that. Then we also have a few bits of crafting here, herbalism and mining. The herbalism's doing particularly well. I think as people now have flying, they're looking to see what they can do from a farming perspective. So they're looking to pick up those enchants. Not a massive profit on those anyway. And then a couple of sales of the Mark of Ancient Priestess, again at a very nice price of 4,400 each. And then here's the big ones, the Accords. So Accord of Critical Strike, 143,000, sold 71 of those for an average of 2,000 gold. Accords of Haste, sold twice as many Accords of Haste compared to the Critical Strike, slightly less average buy price. The Mastery and Versatility, also very respectable, 53,000 and 79,000. So those are the main ring sellers that have done very well this month. The older ones, the packs, have still had a respectable number of sales, just as they've tailed off. Sometimes people can't afford the most expensive ones, but you see here the prices are actually very similar to the prices of the Accords. Perhaps it's people just not knowing that there are new ones out. Obviously I wouldn't expect that to happen much more in the future. So looking at the weapon enchants, there's been an interesting mix here. Deadly Navigation still continues to be a really good seller, so 65,000 in that. But the other good ones here, Force Multiplier, 190,000 there, 76 of those sold for 2,500 gold, and Machinist Brilliance, 56 of those sold for 106,000 gold. And then we've got also Masterful Navigation and Naga Hide, also respectable numbers there. And also there's Quick Navigation and Versatile Navigation and Oceanic Restoration have also done quite well. And there's a few tomes that are in them. And then I have managed to shift a few Umbra Shards and Veiled Crystals just when the prices were high. My average price there for a Veiled Crystal, 807. So that did very well. That was when stock was really low, so I shifted over to selling them directly. So as you can see here, my grand total for just sales in Enchanting is 1.2 million for this month. Now that's not profit, that's just in sales, but that volume is absolutely amazing. I've not had that for a long time. Now we're on Shadowsong, which is a medium pop server. I've got no idea what it must be like on the high pop servers. Obviously the prices and margins will be less. So we better look at the expenses to offset this, because one is not without the other. So in terms of expenses, mainly for the bracers here, we've got coarse leather. I spent 77,000 on that, bought 7,800 of those. Calcified bones, 16,000 of those. But the prices aren't too bad here, 2 gold 16. 969 is quite high for coarse leather, but that was necessary at times when stock was really low on Tide Spray, so I had to go for the next best thing. We do have a few resets of the markets here with packs of Critical Strike and Machinist Brilliance. Obviously you can see here my prices are much lower, closer to 1,000 as opposed to the other ones which are more closer to 2,000. And then obviously we bought a whole load of Enchanting Vellum, a few other bits and pieces. The formulae for the rank 3s, which I now have, those cost a fair penny. Now one thing here is Gloom Dust. I've started actually just buying that myself off the auction house when the price has been reasonable, like 7 gold 83. Even though I can get my Gloom Dust by disenchanting greens quite easily, the main problem I have there is the lack of Expulsum, being able to generate lots of Veiled Crystals. So out of necessity, I've gone for buying Gloom Dust instead. Then I've also bought a few Honourable Combatants bits and pieces here, as well as some Notorious gear that I saw cheap below the Veiled Crystal market price, just so that I could disenchant them straight away and get some Veiled Crystals that way, as people were just dumping them for a very low price. And then obviously I've spent a lot of gold on Nylon Thread. There's the Shimmer Scale, 33,000 on that. Tempest Hide, another 33,000. Then this is the big one. Tide Spray Linen, 260,000 of it, and that was all turned into bracers. So the grand total of expenditure is 590,000, so that takes a sizable chunk out of my enchanting, but still a very good profit of 675,000 just for enchanting alone on this 1 month, which is absolutely incredible. Now if it wasn't for this and the state of the Notorious gear, I'm sure my gold making would have really plummeted this month. But thankfully I did notice the rise in sales in Enchanting and just basically focused everything on that, and it's paid off, which I'm really happy about. So that gives me a grand total, once you take off all the others, gives me a grand total for the month of 670,000. So all the other professions, including the investment into Alchemy, have equalled themselves out. So that means that it's basically my Enchanting that has done me proud this month, which has been totally amazing. So there we go, those are the numbers. If we have a look at that over the months this year, we can see here the big difference here. Now the last time Enchanting did well was back in February at 563,000. So we've surpassed that at 675,000. But notice these massive drops off here of tailoring only 27,000 and leatherworking only 42,000. You can see here was the glory days of the sinister gear, and here was my honourable tailoring, which had a fair number of sales as well. Cooking has been up and down. Leatherworking took a while to take off and has now dropped down to just ticking over levels. Cooking, I'm sure I will get back up to this level once I focus on it again. Alchemy obviously has taken a big hit here, but I'm not surprised. Leatherworking took a fair amount of investment before I started seeing some money return on those. So by the end of the month, I'm sure Alchemy will be making more than enough money. Miscellaneous, as I would expect it to, goes up and down, depending on what's happening in the game. So my grand total here of 670,000 is about higher than average, giving me a total for the year of 4.3 million. So if we look on my graph here, this is really weird, seeing that Enchanting, you can see here, they were all fairly even as professions in the months of April, May and June, and then suddenly a big change here, Enchanting being the sole winner and everything else being fairly minuscule. So it's a big change in fortunes for professions, which just goes to show it helps to have more professions, which is why I'm focusing on getting all the professions eventually, so that you can follow the trends, and when one profession is doing particularly well, doubling down on that one, making sure that you're keeping that one well stocked, whilst also ticking over the other professions. I'd really like to get inscription, blacksmithing, jewel crafting and engineering in there as well. And obviously we're working on alchemy at the moment, so that's going to come into its own hopefully in the next month or two. So I've really been enjoying the game this month. I'm really looking forward to working on more professions. I've really enjoyed 8.2 so far. The overall goal of working towards flying has been absolutely brilliant fun, and I'm nearly there, and so then I can get all the reputation I need on my other characters for their professions, and maybe even start another 110 and get some professions going on them. But that will be for the future. Next steps are going to be getting flying, then getting alchemy up to a profitable level. Then I'll look at also cooking and leatherworking, see if I can get those into a more up-to-date position, and then tick everything through and work on my next set of goals. So if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, or pop by my Discord, or when I'm streaming on Sundays, come and visit me there and I'll happily answer your questions. If you have any tips or other things you'd like to share, please do. And so I wish you all the best in your gold making adventures, and until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.